Let's look at how to add in Google Sheets. But first, let's take a quick look at the logic behind how we write out an equation.
Let's take a quick look at formulas, which really are just sentences in math, and it's something that we all have always been doing. For instance, on paper in school, if you are writing a formula to put together two things, two of one thing and two of another thing, you would write it out on one line as 2 plus sign 2 and an equal sign. It's really similar in spreadsheets. With spreadsheets, the big difference is as we start the math sentence with the equal sign, equal, and then the rest of the sentence we write just like we would have if it were on paper, equals 2 plus 2. When we type it in the spreadsheet this way, that equal sign lets the spreadsheet know, hey, there's an equation coming, hey, there's a formula coming, hey, there's some math coming, and it knows to do some type of calculation with whatever comes next. That equal sign is a trigger. And the minute that you finish your equation and you move to another cell, or you hit the enter key on the keyboard, that equation, it's still there, but it shows you the result. If you want to add things together, we use the plus sign, and we would write it 2 plus 2 equals, for an example. When we're using spreadsheets, you're going to use the plus key on your keyboard. That's the one next to the backspace button if you're on a Windows computer. And we would type it in a cell, starting with the equal sign, the number, plus sign, and another number. Let's put a simple equation in Sheets. Let's say 3 plus 1. We start the equation with the equal sign, tap that on the keyboard, and then we'll hit number 3 on the keyboard. We'll hit the plus sign, our operator. That's the same key as the equal key, but hold the shift key down on your keyboard before you tap it. Now we'll add the number 1, and that's it. There's no more to the equation. If we were writing it out, it would be 3 plus 1 equals. But in Sheets, we start with the equals. We have 2 numbers. That's it. It's done. When it's done, you just hit the enter key on the keyboard. Look at that. It gives us the calculation, the total. 3 plus 1 is 4. Let's do one more. Let's do 5 plus 10. We'll type the equals sign first. That's the equal key. The number 5, your 5 key. The plus sign, shift, and that equal plus key on the keyboard. And then we'll tap 10, 1, 0. That's it. That's the end of the equation. Hit enter. And it added those two numbers together for us automatically. Let's add some more. Ooh, live dangerously. Let's go with 13 plus 4 plus 21. Okay, so equations start with the equal. We're going to type the equal sign. We said 13, 1, 3. All right. Plus, shift, and the plus key. We said 4, so type a number 4. Plus sign, and 21, 2, 1. We're done. That's it. We only have 3 numbers. We're done. Hit enter. So we can finish the cell. Close the cell and finish the formula. And we have 38. We could go on and on with this. But this is the basis of adding in Google Sheets. Okay, we're going to go a little bit further now. Hold on to your hats. But we're going to use something that is very useful with spreadsheets. Get it getting it to do the work for us. So in this spreadsheet, we have two numbers, number 3 and number 2. And in the cell below that, in cell A3, we have the number 5. That's the sum of 3 plus 2. Let's say we change that number 3 to 4. Okay, we're going to close the cell, hit enter, and wow, look at that. The total changed to 6. Let's change the number 2 to 14. Oops. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to hit enter. Now the cell changed again. The total changed again. Because the way that we're doing this is the value of spreadsheets. Putting in calculations, not literally adding numbers together, but adding their representatives together. Let's talk about this grid that is the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is made up of spaces. There are spaces that go up and down, columns, and it's the space between the lines that are the columns. That's where the data goes. These spaces all have names, and those names are letters. Every letter different, or every column with a different letter, starting from the letter A. Then we have spaces that go left to right. These are rows. That space in between the lines that go left to right are called rows, and all rows also have a name, and that name is a number, starting from the number 1. Now, when we put our columns and our rows together, we have a grid. And this grid is made up of all these little boxes. And each little box is called a cell. Now, because all of the columns have names, letters, and all of the rows have names, numbers, all of the cells will also have names, and those names are called addresses. And the address is made up of the column letter and the row number. And all cells are unique. There will not be any two cells with the same address. Now we're going to enter in a formula that uses cell addresses, not just the numbers. Follow along with me and then I'll go back and talk about it. Click in cell A3 with your mouse. That's where we want the number to appear. The sum of these two numbers, that's where we want it to appear. We'll start the equation, as always, tapping the equal key. So we have the equal sign. Then with the mouse, we are going to move it to the cell with the number 4 and click on it. We now have a 1 in the equation. Let's enter the plus sign. Hold the shift, tap the key with the plus sign. We have a plus sign in the equation. Using your mouse, move to the cell with 14 in it and click. We now have two numbers in this equation. That's all that we need. So the equation is done. We're going to tap the equal key because we're done. And the equation has now been not only added in that cell, once we hit enter, it has been calculated, and Sheets shows us what the answer is, 18. Let's do another one and kind of talk it through. Let's click on cell B1, type the number 55, hit enter because we're done typing, And we need to let Sheets know we're done typing. So hitting enter puts that data in that cell. In cell B2, let's put in 24. Hit enter when you're done typing. That finishes off the cell, closes the cell, puts that data in there. Let's do the equation again. Equations in Excel start with the equal sign. We will tap the equal sign on the keyboard. This time, instead of typing 55, instead of typing 55, we're going to use the cell. Quick note, you see Sheets popped in some cell addresses already, populated it with some other cell addresses. What Sheets and what a lot of software likes to do is help you out, kind of guess and assume what you're doing. So it looks at what we've just done in the other cells and it's guessing what we want to have done. A lot of times that is good. Sometimes it is not. Just like that friend that you have who is always cutting you off and guessing what you were going to say. Sometimes they're right, but not always. That's to say, you can go ahead and use those auto suggestions that they give. So we're going to ignore what they have right now because I want you to see what is actually happening by you doing it yourself. After we've typed the equal sign, we're going to click on the first cell or the first number that we want to be in the equation. And by first number, I mean we're not going to just type in that number. We're going to use our mouse and move to the cell that has the number and click on it. So now we're going to be adding B1. But B1 is not a number. You can't add B1 in real life. If somebody said, hey, add B1 plus C5, you would say, what are you talking about? But in Sheets, B1 represents whatever number is in that cell. B1 is the cell, so this equation will add anything that's in that cell. Now we need the plus sign. So we're going to hold down the shift and hit the plus sign, the plus key. So we'll have the plus sign. And let's add the second number. We're going to go and click on that number. That number happens to be in cell B2. And as you see in the equation, it adds B2 into the equation. We're not adding B2 because B2 is not a thing. It's not a number, at least it is a thing. It's not a number, but this is going to add whatever is in B2. The equation is done. We're adding two numbers. We've put in both numbers and the plus sign. We don't need to go any further. You're done. We hit the enter key when we're done. And there you have it. It has performed the calculation. It has added, Sheets has added 55 plus 24. But the nice part about this now, because we've used cell addresses and not numbers, if my number changes, if I want to change 55 to another number, let's say 6,412, hitting enter, the calculation is dynamic. It is moving. It is always adjusting to what's in the cells, not an actual fixed number. And this is how spreadsheets are so cool. If you want to go a little further, join my community, the Computer Skills Society. This is a safe, free space where you can continue to level up your computer skills. There are short classes on specific type topics like creating a budget in a spreadsheet or creating an invitation for an event. I host live teaching events where you can ask questions or even share your screen, and there are even opportunities for one-on-one instruction. It's free to join. The link is in the description.